Good morning, my YouTube family. I'll get this right sooner or later, and hence the reason this is coffee time, and it is definitely a coffee Monday. Today I'm going to actually be doing a back-to-back video with you. I have some exciting news on my next one, so please pay attention and watch for that one. I think I'm going to make a lot of people happy. I was excited to learn a few things that I can share with you, and this being the time of waiting to plant our seeds, and it is at this point anxiety in some forms. It's an exciting moment, but it's one of those you still have to be patient. But I will bring that up on my next video. This morning's topic is something that has been laying deeply on my heart. Some things that I have been witnessing, some things that I have been questioning. And you know that here lately I've been doing the pantry challenge. Today I'm going to explain to you exactly what this challenge means and why it's around, actually. Three Rivers Homestead started this many years ago, and I recently came across it last year. I started my first pantry challenge, and it made a lot of sense to me. And going into it this year, it had brought a bigger perspective, you can say, as to why this needs to be done. So today's topic is lessons on pantry food. A lot of people don't know this, and I think it needs to be addressed. It's really not mentioned. What is mentioned, we grow our vegetables, we are self-sustaining, we put up our food, and that's about the limitations of it, besides showing what we can put on our shelves, what we don't put on our shelves. But the aspect of it is why and for how long. So that's what this topic is about today. There are 4 areas that I'm going to break down that is really good to keep in your mind when you go to start growing this year, when you go to start storing this year and filling up your pantries. Those 4 aspects are plan, utilize, purpose, and when. Plan which I've spoken before, what you and your family will absolutely use. I've taken you on my pantry tours a couple times now. So planning out what you and your family will use. Now, this will take some time as you may just start be doing this stuff here and just learning about it. You may have been doing this for years and still learning. In some ways, I do too. I started, like I mentioned, about the middle of summer. Things changed in my homestead, and I had to do a complete turnaround. So I'm now learning what I can put on the shelf, which is safe for my husband, and what I can't. So it becomes a whole new process for me. So plan out very carefully what you and your family will use. And this will fall in line into the rest of the stuff that I had mentioned in the 4 categories on this topic. So planning out your gardens, planning out what you want in your freezers, all of this, even dehydrated foods, freeze-dried, the whole entire area. Use what is going to benefit you and your family. So plan that out. Utilize what you have. Hence the reason for this pantry challenge. You want to be able to recirculate your food. There's a duration and a time for everything. And I've mentioned when I make my plans and utilize what I have to know when, which falls in line for the purpose, and when. And I'm slowly getting into this without trying to overwhelm you or overcrowd those 4 purposes, but they all fall in line with each other. to utilize what you have, you want to be able to put it on your shelf and then know how to use it. And that's another reason for my pantry challenge is I am teaching you not only the fact of putting it on your shelf, because now you've planned this out, you have all this food, and then you get this thought of, how do I use this? So that is one of the other reasons for doing my pantry challenge meals. And the same with Acres Homestead and a few others, Three Rivers. They're showing their meals on what they're doing and how to utilize what they're storing. So then falls in line the purpose. What is the purpose you're wanting to do this for? For me, it cuts cost in my grocery shopping. And especially today, as I'm watching the prices rise, I couldn't have done a better thing for ourselves if I ever tried. So the purpose for me to store what we grow, what we purchase for sales in our freezer, what we dehydrate, it's to help us save money. It is to help us to still eat fresh foods, unprocessed, in a sense there's no chemicals and all these other things. When I look at my jars, I know exactly what's in them, and there's no byproducts, there's none of this other preserving items in my jars. They are what they are. Example, my blueberries and water. That's it. So I'm removing these store-bought products that are processed with names that I can't pronounce into having products on my shelves that I know what I have. It's safe and it's healthy on top of being fresh. Even though it's been processed, it's still fresh food. So those are my purposes and why I do that. So, I'm sorry, y'all. I had a phone call coming in, so I'm ignoring this one. I'm getting a lot of spam stuff coming in, so I'm hoping this is not messing up my video. So, there falls the planning, the utilizing, and the purpose. Then comes to know when. This is the biggest thing I've ever seen yet. I have seen masses, and know this part, to store and preserve our foods in canning, freezing, dehydrating. Y'all, I am not deterring from this at all. It is the best thing we can do for our families. But what I am looking at, and I'm going to give you some examples, is to know when. There is a lot of information out there on preserving and storing and stocking food. What there isn't a lot of information of is where I'm going to step out of the box and bring in some reality. I have seen the most beautiful pantries that I have ever seen in my life. And some, in a way, it makes me look in awe for what they do. And I look at my little bitty and think, wow, they've got this beautiful pantry. However, to know when. A lot of us are being taught to stock up. And there's nothing wrong with that to a sense. To know when. When is, and one subject comes up, and I'm going to put it in terms in a lighter manner, when the stuff hits the fan. When is your time to use this? Because I'm going to tell you, I'm going to give you some examples that and sometimes I think fate tells me and gives me direction, and something fell in line this morning with me to know that this was the direction I was supposed to go to make this video with you. So I'm going to bring up a few things. There's a lot that are buying things extra from the store, and I encourage that myself, and there's nothing wrong with that. However, you do need to know something. The best buy date. A lot of us know that some of our products we buy can go past that best by date because that is the time where the stores have a limitation of when they can sell it. However, we know that this can go over the time. But do you know exactly how long? I have a few examples that I'm going to give you. Canned goods that would, like tomatoes and things like this that we buy to put on our shelves that we're going to save up for when stuff hits the fan. But did you know that even past that best by date, canned goods are usually good for 2 to 3 years? Just like the food that I preserve on my shelf. I told you I have a time span where I will take and recycle my food, which is why I do my pantry challenge, recycling what I have done, or to the point that I will use up everything that I have, should that happen, and refresh every season. I don't generally like to go past 2 years. And the reason for this is because the content in our jars start to lose flavor, they start to lose color. That's not saying that they're not sealed or that they're no good, but eventually things start losing, and we want the most vitamins that we can get. We want to keep that beautiful coloring for as long as we can, and in order to do that, we have to know when to start using what we're storing. Because if you think about this, and if you don't use that when, somewhere down the line, all this work that you've put into, all this money you've invested into, is going to become a total loss. And we don't talk about that. I have seen it in my own self. I've even gone to the fact is, and I'm going to use myself as an example. When I first started preserving, I got super excited. I started canning and dehydrating and everything I possibly could because it was exciting. But again, it came to that factor is, how am I going to use this? Did this actually benefit me? I would go to the farmer's market and I would purchase stuff and I would do what I saw that I thought was so exciting. And in the end of it all, it sat in my pantry. I didn't know how to utilize it. I didn't know if we truly liked it. And so as I was going through, I found myself doing a lot of waste. So I'm trying to avoid that this year. I'm trying to share with you to help you through so that you don't make these mistakes that I did. Another one that came up was spaghetti sauce. And I know a lot of us will, instead of doing our own, we've gone and purchased spaghetti sauce. But do you know, even after the best by date, that spaghetti sauce on the shelf can last only up to 18 months? Cereal, dry goods. Cereal generally lasts only a year. Crackers. These things over time, as they're sitting on their shelves being unused, become stale. Even if they're sealed and never been opened, they become stale. Flour, whole wheat flour, after a certain amount of time, which I think that one's in about a year, whole wheat flour becomes rancid. So all this money that we're investing in stocking, saving for that time of when the crap hits the fan, our food is going bad. I have seen, and I've done this myself, I'll get the 5-gallon really tight sealed containers, store my food, and this depends on your family size, how much are you going to use this? How often are you going to use this while we're saving up for when the stuff hits the fan? Good things to think about. It brought to my attention, even for my own sake, dry pasta. That is one of the cheap things we can put on our shelf. But that only lasts 2 to 3 years after the best by date. and eventually it starts losing its abilities to be fresh, flavoring, textures, everything. And I'll finish that one in a minute. I'm going to continue down this line. Popcorn. Now, this was one of mine. I love popcorn as a snack. For us, popcorn is a very healthy snack. So, but did you know that over time, even after the best by date, popcorn only lasts for a year and it becomes stale? I have seen this for my own self, where I had a jar about 2 years old and thought, well, this is still good. I vacuum sealed it, everything. My kernels did not pop. This is making sense. Peanut butter, store-bought peanut butter. We'll take that, put it on our shelves. We know that this is a shelf-stable item, but after the best by date, it's only good for about 18 months. That makes sense to me because if you think about this, there are oils in that peanut butter. And over time, those oils can go rancid on you. It's made with palm oil and this other type of shelf-stable ingredients that can turn rancid. You've now purchased items by the bulk, you put it on your shelf, you've kept it for a couple years, and you're going to find that it's not going to be good for you. Spices. Now, I am kind of skeptical on the timeline that they say about this, and I'll explain that. They say that after the best by date, spices unused can last up to 2 to 4 years. 2 years, I can say yes. 4 years, I doubt. Even with my fresh, it loses its flavor. It loses its color. And honestly, we can go buy spices that are $1 and then store them on our shelf and use them as we go along. But are we truly, depending on how much you bought, are you going to go through this fast enough while you keep buying and storing in such a bulk? You're going to lose flavor. You're going to lose nutrients. You're going to lose coloring. So, and cookies, snacks that some people will put on their shelves. Cookies, unopened, will last about 4 months. So these are just a few items. And again, even if you make your own homemade pasta, now homemade pasta can be dried. It can be stored in airtight seal bags. Even these airtight milers, all this stuff, you will start to lose the benefits. You will start to lose the coloring. Things become stale and they don't last as long. And homemade pasta will last way shorter than even the store-bought. So that very last aspect that I brought up, know when. Know when in your mind is when the stuff hits the fan for you. Because you do not want to be caught in this scenario. And I'm going to use myself again as an example. You never know what's going to come up. And my example was, again, now last year I didn't have anything to worry about. I did the pantry challenge. I could can whatever I wanted. But this year, excuse me, let me rephrase this. Not last year, the year before last. I started this in 2021. So in 2022, something came onto our homestead, unexpected, a health issue came up. And it changed my whole pantry, right smack dab in the middle of my preserving. And here was what I was caught with. I now had to find something to do with all this hard work. And I had two choices, and I've mentioned this. I could discard everything that I invested in, took the time to preserve in, and took this massive loss. Or I could have shared it with others. Fortunately, and here's a reality, and I can understand why. Fortunately, I was able to share with my family, and it did a great job. They've actually enjoyed everything they received. But that's not always the case. And you have to understand this. You will see people buying purchase items at a farmer's market that have been home canned. Some people will take that risk. But in a reality form, let's face it, not everybody will. There are so many ways of people canning and preserving these days. And I'm just going to step out on the line here and tell you not everything is safe. Therefore, there is a thing called trust issues. So not everybody, a lot of people know this. So not everybody is willing to take those canned goods that you've done, and you're going to be stuck. So I was blessed and fortunate, but there was that reality in my mind. What was I really going to do with this? Now, I do stick with the guidelines, and I'm not the police about it. I will not tell anybody how to preserve your food. That is totally up to you and your family. But as for me and my homestead, as far as Parton's Heritage Homestead, we go based by preservations of bulk canning or the National Food Preservation Site. So I know what I'm doing, but not everybody has that ability to say, well, I trust you even though. And I get that. And folks, please know this. I mean, not everybody, you're not going to always be able to get rid of what you've done. So know when you're going to use this and how you're going to use this. Some other things that came to mind is when I went in my excitement of preserving everything, I have taken some great losses because without the planning and without my purpose, I ended up having items on my shelf that I found they didn't taste good to us. It didn't work with our homestead. So again, there was this waste. I have seen situations which actually happen. Now, we are blessed to own our own home, but anything can happen. And here's some other scenarios. In our times of preserving, not knowing when we're going to use this, and mind you, folks, you're going to find, honestly, you're going to find this all over YouTube, masses of storing for that when the stuff happens. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with this in a sense, but know some of the scenarios that can come up. Some may be preserving while they're in a rented home. Some may be preserving while they're on a homestead. They have a home and find that their area is not accommodating for their needs. So now they're going to look elsewhere to grow bigger or be bigger. So they're going to sell this home and move to another. Now, something to think about. While you're preserving, you're not going to let your preserves go. You're not going to let any of this food you've been storing go. So you're going to take this with you. And it can be a chore. The other areas, now once you moved into a bigger or better home, you're going to preserve that much more because you find you have this much space. Know when your timeline is. All this food needs to be recycled. All this food needs to have a time to utilize it and how to utilize it. So keep these things in mind while you're doing this. You need to circulate. If you have products, which I have had, I still have some things from last year. So while I started re-preserving new food, I would take that food from last year, bring it forward, and put the new food behind it. This way I can circulate into my new while I'm growing. I've made my plans this time before I start this year on what is working for us, what is not. Another reason why I'm doing the pantry challenge. It teaches me in my excitement of doing all that I've done, what am I really using? What am I not? What am I just leaving, laying around, deteriorating in the process of going through. Not everything will last. Not a canned store food item, not anything that we preserve. It is not meant to last forever. And I'm going to give you an example of that. In cases, and I am in other homesteading groups, I have watched many other homesteaders, but I have seen some cases where folks would purchase a home. One was quite interesting. When they purchased their home, they didn't know they actually had a pantry hidden in their home underground. It was kind of cool. But then there was this reality that clicked in my head. Life itself is an unknown. And truthfully, we live every day. For me, I give thanks that I breathe every day. But there's always that thing behind my mind is nothing lasts forever. Things happen. My husband's accident was an eye-opener for me. We don't know the times or day that anything can happen to us. So in my excitement of preserving and knowing this factor is, should I take my last breath, what I have done is going to be left behind. And there are situations where homes have been bought and items to the family were left behind. Some of those items were dated back, Lord have mercy, into the 1900s, 1800s. Food that is no longer, though it's preserved, honestly, unedible at this point. So somebody has to clean all this up. The know when. Folks, know when. Now, I keep a general rule in mine, know when, by going based by seasons. And the reason for that is my when, in the winter time, my husband's job slows down. He is a seasonal worker. He works for a paving company, and when it gets cold, when it rains, in all reality, his job comes down. It's not booming, it's not growing, he's not getting as many hours. So my when is this time when he slows down and his job slows down. Perfect timing for me. When the paycheck comes down, we do good just to be able to, even we live a simple life, we do good to just pay our bills. But then we have other things now, like medical bills coming in. So we have to be able to utilize this low income to accommodate those. So not being able to run to the grocery store as much helps me to provide for us. So these are my when the stuff hits the fan time. The other aspect is I couldn't have done this at a better time. Since we are now seeing grocery prices rising so high, this would have been a perfect time for everybody to start utilizing what they've done. Hello, photo bomber Smokey. Get down, girl. At this point, this would have been the perfect time for everybody who's got their food stored and stocked up to start using this, honestly. Start using all those stocks. Start using all those 5-gallon buckets. Folks, when is your time? So not everything lasts forever. It's a good idea. It is an amazing idea. But again, even what we do does not last forever. So make a plan. Utilize what you have. Learn how to use it. Make a purpose into why you are using this. And a lot of times it comes up to we're saving for when the stuff hits the fan. As a homesteader, I am also a prepper. But as I prepare, as I prep, I know when. I know my purpose. I know how to utilize. And I know my timelines. So these are things you need to think about when you start this year. A lot of you are new And a lot of this is not brought up to you, and I will be the one to step again out of the box, and I will bring this to your attention. It is very important to know this. So I'm hoping that this has helped you make a plan. Again, keep those when you write your plans out, or when you think in your mind, keep those 4 aspects: plan, utilize, purpose, know when. And in doing so, you will have a successful running homestead. You will not have overcrowding. You will have less waste. And know that some things will happen. And when that happens, make sure your family, teach your family, let them understand. So, I mean, a lot of us, like my homestead, I am the main cook. I am the main provider, not the main provider. My husband is the main provider, but I'm the main preserver. I'm the one that keeps this homestead running. If something happens to me, my husband is not going to know what to do with any of this. So this made me think, I need to teach him. If he is wanting to, if he is willing to, I honestly need to teach him. So keep these things in mind. It is, like I said, again, a fantastic idea. And I encourage you, please, yes, I encourage you to preserve and grow your own food. This is what a self-sustaining lifestyle is. I encourage you that if you cannot, to go to your farmers market, support your farmers, know your limitations, know your whens, know your timelines, even in the buying before the best buy, and know that even your store-bought items will eventually not be so plentiful for you. And I really am trying to avoid you taking and having a huge mass out on your yard of making waste, dumping your food, because you're going to find this didn't last as long as I thought it would. You're going to cringe at the fact of all that money that you had spent and now is no good, because we are taught to stock. We are taught to preserve. And in a sense, there's a good and a bad to it all. So I'm hoping, again, that this is helping you. I'm hoping I'm making some sense to you. Enjoy this time. Experiment, learn. And in preserving your food, yes, it's going to be an experiment until you can figure out your family's wants, likes, dislikes. You're going to learn how to utilize. Did it benefit you? Did it not benefit you? Did it taste good? It's an experimentation. But limit those experimentations. Don't go overboard. I did this, and in my overboard, there was waste. So the reality to also being self-sustaining, the reality is into stocking, prepping, storing. There is a thing called waste. And it happens, y'all, but it's never, hardly ever mentioned. So I will mention it to you. Smokey, you know better. We don't get on the table. So with that, y'all, please, again, I encourage you, and I am going to grow. She don't want to listen to me this morning. Ooh, she frustrates me. I am going to grow, and I went last year. I had some fun into growing my vegetables because I went into a few little exotics I'd like to try, and in the end of it, it did not benefit me very well. So I'm experimenting into that. In the most part, I'm going to go back to the basics because I absolutely found things that I could have used this winter in my pantry challenge, and I miss it. I had the ability to grow it, but I lost space because I went to experimenting into, wow, this looked good, or I wanted to try that, and I lost out. So, and now I'm buying them at the grocery store and cringing at the prices I'm having to pay for it. So there's that. So I'm replanting even my garden. I'm replanting my pantry, and I am now in the point I know when, and this is why I do my pantry challenge every year now. I find it extremely beneficial, not for the simple fact that I just stored my food and now I get to use it, but I knew my when. I knew when my stuff hit the fan. I know my duration of time. My duration of time, generally, I will not let my food sit for more than 2 years. I will recirculate. I will use my old stocks. I won't continue to overstock to that ability where I cannot circulate. Here's some examples that I'm finding. I had food in my freezer. Now, we all know no matter how well you preserve your food in your freezer, there is a thing called freezer burn. Some still use it. It has an unpleasant scent and in some ways has an unpleasant taste. Are we actually going to really eat it? I will answer for myself, no. I don't find it pleasing. It does not taste fresh to me, so I wasted. How long, even in my freezer, am I going to keep my food? For me, my general time span, my when, is 1 year. I try not to let my freezer food go beyond that. I will recirculate. And in some point, here's another thing that I'm doing on this challenge. My basic thing is I'm going to use up everything that I can use up so I can restore new. Why I have done this is because in my preserving, in my prepping, in my stocking, I have lost track. I have lost track of what I had. And I've been finding things that, Lord have mercy, I didn't know this was in there. Now I'll use it. But you can lose track of what you're doing and what you have. We have a chest type freezer, one of those that you climb in there and kind of fall down deep inside that thing and your feet are hanging on the edge. Yeah, as tall as I am, that's me too. But I'm finding things at the bottom of my freezer I didn't know I had. And because I was doing that, I kept my freezers full. I kept buying and buying and stocking and stocking. And I lost track of what was at the bottom of that freezer. Organization, I could turn around and put some of my milk crates in there and organize out my freezer. But when I do that, I also find that it takes a lot of space. So I have to figure out a system that's going to work for me, that I don't lose track of what I have in my freezer. Example is I kept buying hamburger because I was out of hamburger, but I was looking at the top layer. I wasn't going deep down in, because who really in a chest type freezer likes to go deep down in their freezer? This taught me a lesson, and this is a lesson I'm learning during my pantry challenge. This pantry challenge isn't just the fact is it's something I do every year. It's teaching me lessons and being able to utilize even the new products that I'm putting on my shelf. How am I going to use this? So, and I am a self-taught chef. I am very versatile into foods, from gourmet to basic to simple. So I know how to utilize food, and in some ways I am now learning new food I didn't even know existed in this world of this health issue with my husband. So there's this aspects. I'm learning some things taste so good and some things, Lord have mercy, I will never do again. But I'm experimenting. So in my experimentation, it's teaching me what to put on my shelf, what not to put on my shelf. I am learning how much things will last, how long they won't last, how much, and there becomes this factor in the planning and utilizing how much during my know when do I want to actually put on my shelf where I'm not going to waste. It does happen. So, and at one point, I'll be honest with you, up until the point I learned from other homesteaders, some really good ones, whole wheat flour. I had bought bags of whole wheat flour, and I did not know that they can go rancid. So therefore, I'm bringing this video out to you. Things can go stale, things can go bad, things can go rancid. And another aspect, and it's not something even spoke about, folks, it can bring about things to your pantry you don't want. There are things called weevils. Yes, many suggest that you buy your flour and you store it in your freezer for a certain amount of time and you could put it in your pantry. Okay, let's ask you this. How much space do you have in your freezer? Even in a sealed container, items can get bugs in it. Then you have another aspect. When wintertime comes around, you can get mice. I don't care how great your home is. I don't care how prim and proper your life is. You can have the wilderness outside of bugs or mice come to your home for shelter, and they're going to feast. So these are things you really need to know. Learn how to preserve your food in a safe, proper manner. Know when your time is. When is yours? And this is a really big question. When is your time to start using what you're buying and storing? I am by far not telling you not to do this. That would be crazy on my behalf because I am self-sustaining. What I am telling you and bringing to your attention is know when, know your limitations, know when the best by, how long after your items will last, know these other aspects that I'm bringing in, and enjoy what you're doing, knowing that you can go in your kitchen, you're preparing a meal for your family, you have been self-sustained, you are saving money, and you're going to enjoy what you're eating. Your body is going to love you for that, and it's going to encourage you to keep going forward. You do not have all these preservatives. You know what you're opening, and that in itself, you know, I'll bring up a thing that we have always been brought up with. An apple a day keeps the doctor away. Growing your own fresh foods, preserving your own foods without those chemicals and other things that are being put into our food will bring you so much more health to you and your family. But know these aspects. Plan, utilize, purpose, and know when. Until next time, look forward to my next video because I have something exciting to share with you all. And with this being the downtime of winter, I really think I'm excited to share this with you. So look forward to my next video, and I want you to know I love you very much. Very, very much. And that is the reason why I have my coffee moments with you. Yeah, it's definitely a Coffee Monday. So much love to you. God bless you. I hope this has helped. And until next time, big hugs from Parton's Heritage Homestead.